Ladies and gentlemen, 2 airlines worth of lawyers wanted this dispute. The chairman said no. For the slogan, best of 3 falls, arm wrestling!
Late 1966, a private club bar in San Antonio, Texas. A lawyer, a pilot, a cocktail napkin, and a triangle. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. That exchange you just watched is cast in metal. A plaque at Southwest Airlines headquarters reportedly renders it word for word. It is one of the great founding scenes in American business. And the man whose drink that was said, it never happened. Rollin King, before he died, told a Dallas paper there was no napkin. He allowed one thing, and the retellings do not agree on his exact words. It made, as they report it, a hell of a good story. We could not reach the interview itself. We found no record of Herb Kelleher ever taking the story back. And here's the part the tellings skip. Go to Southwest's own About page today. No napkin, no bar, no triangle. The company has quietly stopped telling it. The plaque, reportedly, is still on the wall. So if the napkin is a story, what actually made this airline? The answer has docket numbers. No major American company was ever born more thoroughly in a courtroom than this one, enjoined the day after it was certified, cleared to fly by a court the night before its first takeoff, and avenged by a federal criminal case that had to be brought twice. The myth said love. The file said war. And the file is not done printing. So if the napkin is a story, what actually made this airline? The answer has docket numbers. No major American company was ever born more thoroughly in a courtroom than this one. Here is the founding story with receipts. March 15, 1967. Air Southwest Company, incorporated in San Antonio by King and Kelleher. A paper airline, one asset. An application to fly between 3 Texas cities. February 20th, 1968. The Texas Aeronautics Commission votes unanimously to let them fly. They were an airline for exactly 1 day. On February 21st, the incumbent carriers, Braniff, Trans-Texas, Continental, walked into a courtroom in Austin and got a restraining order blocking the certificate. Not a price war, not a better product, a filing. Remember the weapon? It is the whole story. The fee arrangement is Kelleher's own telling. Deferred fees, costs from his own pocket, and, by his count, something like 31 judicial and administrative proceedings before a single passenger ever boarded. No billing records survive to check him. The docket chain does. March 1969. They lose at the Court of Civil Appeals, with one dissent. May 13th, 1970. The Texas Supreme Court reverses, without a dissent. The case that saved them is styled Texas Aeronautics Commission versus Braniff Airways. The incumbents had sued the state to void its own grant. December 7th, 1970. The United States Supreme Court declines to hear it. 4 years. The paper airline is legal. Now it has to become real, and the record shows exactly how much runway they had. None. 4 years. The paper airline is legal. Now it has to become real, and the record shows exactly how much runway they had. None. Lamar Muse, hired January 1971 to run it. What he took over, 3 airplanes, 90% financed, and a company that had spent its whole life in court. In June, it sold stock to the public, 650,000 shares, around $11 each, about $7 million of runway. And people signed on. Pilots, mechanics, flight attendants. Hold on to two of the people hired for that first summer. They will outlast everything else in this film. June 16th, 1971. 2 days before the first scheduled flight, Braniff and Texas International go back to a district judge in Austin and get Southwest enjoined. Again, tickets sold, crews trained, 3 airplanes, painted and fueled, and an order that says none of it may leave the ground.
If we board tomorrow, and the sheriff walks onto that field with this, what do I tell the captain?
You roll right over that son of a bitch. Leave our tire tracks on his uniform if necessary.
That first answer is the most famous sentence in Southwest folklore, and you should know its pedigree. The only documented version is Southwest's own corporate history page. No newspaper carried it in 1971. As the company tells it, that is what he said. The second answer is documented to the night. The night of June 17th, Herb Kelleher went and found the Supreme Court of Texas. The Supreme Court of Texas heard him that night, voided the injunction, and barred the trial judge from interfering with the flight. The formal order followed as Texas Aeronautics Commission versus Betts, a writ of mandamus, 469 Southwestern Reporter 2nd Series, 394. The next morning, June 18th, 1971, Captain Emilio Salazar pushed the throttles forward at Love Field, and the courtroom airline was, at last, an airline. Now, the part of the founding story that never makes the plaque. Southwest flew. The incumbents did not stop fighting. The fight changed venues. And by September 1972, a federal grand jury in San Antonio was quietly looking at how Braniff and Texas International had waged their war. The retellings decorate this case. We are going to stay with the file. February 14th, 1975, Valentine's Day. The grand jury indicts both airlines, conspiracy in restraint of trade and conspiracy to monopolize. The object, in the indictment's own frame, to prevent and exclude Southwest Airlines from doing business in Texas. The documented allegation of method, a coordinated boycott designed to keep stranded passengers off the new airline. An allegation recited by the court, not yet a finding. Now the part of the founding story that never makes the plaque. Southwest flew. The incumbents did not stop fighting. The fight changed venues. Then the case nobody tells you about does the thing nobody expects. It dies. March 15th, 1977, the chief judge throws the indictment out. Not because the airlines were innocent, because the government fouled its own grand jury. An outsider, an ex-official of the very board whose agreements were under investigation, had been allowed to sit in the room. Prosecutors had leaned on unsworn summaries. The charge itself was too vague to answer. The airline born from a courtroom had watched its own avenger die on procedure. And here the story becomes the airline's own biography, repeated by the government. The prosecution did what Southwest had always done when the paper went against it. It refiled. August 16th, 1977. A second grand jury, a second indictment, same conspiracy. And this time, the defendants reached for the biggest shield in American law, the First Amendment itself. Our lawsuits, they argued, were petitions to the government, and petitions are protected speech, which set up the ruling the whole case turned on. June 2nd, 1978. Every motion to dismiss the second indictment is denied. Read that ruling again. A federal court wrote it, a filing can be a weapon, and when it is, the law will treat it like one. After that, the fight went out of the case. Braniff pleaded no contest. Texas International pleaded guilty. The record of Texas International's own fine has a gap, our ledger marks. Braniff paid $100,000, described in the coverage of the day as the maximum fine under the indictments. 4 years of court war to be borne, 7 years of criminal process to be avenged, a fine smaller than the price of a wing. The vindication was never the money. It was the file. Read that ruling again. A federal court wrote it. A filing can be a weapon, and when it is, the law will treat it like one. So what did they do with the airline the courts kept alive? They made it the most reliable money machine in the history of the industry. And they wrapped it, from the first summer, in love. Love Field. The ticker symbol LUV. Hostesses in hot pants and lace-up boots, drinks called love potions. The New York Times noticed before the first year was out, new Texas airline loves its passengers. In the fall of 1972, Braniff tried one more weapon. Not a filing this time, a price, $13, Dallas to Houston. Southwest's answer became advertising legend. Match the $13. Or pay full fare and take a free bottle of liquor home. Per the Texas handbook's telling, 8 in 10 took the bottle. The airline loves to add that for a season it was among the biggest liquor distributors in Texas. That superlative is lore, and we tell it to you as lore. And the machine's own favorite origin story. 1972, broke again. They sell the 4th airplane to survive and keep the 4-plane schedule with 3 by turning an airplane around at the gate in 10 minutes. Southwest's own founding story holds that. The citation trail ends at the company's anniversary site. No 1972 document survives to prove it. We put the napkin to the test in the first 2 minutes. The 10-minute turn gets the same test. What needs no folklore is what the machine did next, because the machine's numbers are filed. We put the napkin to the test in the first 2 minutes. The 10-minute turn gets the same test. And the war? The war never ended. It changed venues again, which is this company's whole biography. In 1980, the fight moved into Congress itself. The Wright Amendment, a federal statute restricting where jets flying out of Love Field were allowed to go. It took until October 2014, 34 years, for the last of it to expire. A commission, a courtroom, a grand jury, a statute, everything this airline ever won or lost, it won or lost in writing. Hold that thought for half a century. It is coming back.
Our legal budget is $5,000 a round, and every dollar goes to charity. Best settlement I ever signed.
March 23rd, 1992. Both companies used the slogan "Just Plain Smart." Instead of suing, the two chairmen wrestled for it. Best of three, $5,000 a round to charity. Kelleher lost, and the winner, Stevens Aviation's chairman, let Southwest keep using the slogan anyway. Both companies kept it. Understand what you are looking at, because it is the exception that proves this film's rule. The man who was built by litigation, who told his people, by his own count, 31 times, to meet the enemy in court, picked the one fight of his life he could settle outside one, and staged it in a wrestling ring, on videotape, for his employees. The war airline telling a love story about itself. On purpose, understand what you are looking at, because it is the exception that proves this film's rule. Two more pieces of the legend. and the modern act is going to spend them. By the 2000s, this brand was a pair of refusals. Southwest never charged a change fee, not once in its history. When the other three big carriers finally dropped theirs in the pandemic summer of 2020, the coverage of the day made the point in one line: Southwest has never charged one. And when rivals started charging for luggage and the fuel spiked late 2000s, Southwest turned refusal into the brand itself. By 2009, Bags Fly Free was a formal campaign, the company's loudest promise and its favorite proof that the love was real. The free bag, the open seat. Keep both where you can see them. The last act of this film is about their funerals. The free bag, the open seat. Keep both where you can see them. The last act of this film is about their funerals. Now the filed numbers. From 1973 through 2019, Southwest Airlines reported a profit every single year, 47 consecutive years. That sentence is the company's own, from its own press release, and for once the record and the legend agree. The doctrine underneath it was Kelleher's, in the words Forbes published in 2018.
Not the meme version, the sourced version. Employees, then customers, then shareholders, in that order. The tellers of the story left first. Lamar Muse died in 2007. Roland King, the man who said the napkin never happened, died in 2014. The plaque outlived his denial. Herb Kelleher died January 3rd, 2019. The streak survived him by 1 year. 2020, the pandemic. A $3.1 billion loss, the company's first annual loss since 1972. The machine that had never needed a rescue now needed one. And into that weakened company, in the summer of 2024, came the modern version of the oldest weapon in its story, a filing.
And into that weakened company, in the summer of 2024, came the modern version of the oldest weapon in its story, a filing. June 10th, 2024. Elliott Investment Management goes public with a position of about $1.9 billion, roughly 11% of Southwest, and a letter to the board. Elliott is a hedge fund with a particular reputation. It does not tell stories. It files. The letter, verbatim, in part, leadership's, quote, stubborn unwillingness to evolve the company's strategy has led to, quote, deeply disappointing results. Chief Executive Bob Jordan has delivered, quote, unacceptable financial and operational performance quarter after quarter. And the demand, Southwest, quote, must bring in new leadership from outside of the company. Note what the letter does not say. It never says fire Bob Jordan by name. Wants to oust the CEO was the press's sentence. We quote the letter. Elliott's stated target, $49 a share within 12 months. And the uncomfortable thing about the letter, on the numbers it cited, it was right. The results were the results. The villain of this act does arithmetic. And the uncomfortable thing about the letter, on the numbers it cited, it was right. The results were the results. The villain of this act does arithmetic. What followed was a war fought entirely in documents, and the documents fell like dominoes. July 3rd, Southwest adopts a poison pill. July 25th, 45 days after Elliott surfaced, Southwest announces the end of open seating. 53 years of sit anywhere to be replaced by assigned seats and an extra legroom cabin. Jordan's stated reason, his words, research shows passengers, quote, overwhelmingly prefer assigned seating. August 13th, Elliott names a slate of 10 directors and pushes toward a special meeting. September 10th, Executive Chairman Gary Kelly announces he will retire. And on September 26th, at Investor Day, two things happened on the same stage that this film will now refuse to let anyone unhappen. Thing 1. The company presented its own math on bag fees. Charging for bags would bring in about $1.5 billion a year and cost about $1.8 billion in lost business. The company's own arithmetic said, "Don't." Thing 2. The chief executive stood on that stage and made the pledge out loud in the words a reporter in the room took down. And the company filed the same promise with the Securities and Exchange Commission that same day. Any change to the policy that gives every customer 2 free checked bags, it said, would drive down demand and far outweigh any revenue the fees created. The company presented its own math on bag fees. Charging for bags would bring in about $1.5 billion a year and cost about $1.8 billion in lost business. The company's own arithmetic said, "Don't." Hold both of those. October 23rd, 2024. The war ends the way paper wars end, not with a verdict, with a clause. We read the settlement in the filing itself, Schedule 13, D/A, Amendment 5. Elliott held 61 million shares, and change, 10.2% of the company. Elliott and Southwest executed a cooperation agreement, and Elliott, quote, irrevocably withdrew its special meeting request. Elliott's directors took seats on the board. Gary Kelly's exit accelerated, and the chief executive the letter had called unacceptable? Bob Jordan stayed. The founders had won their war in court twice, over 11 years. The fund won its war without a single hearing in 135 days. Same weapon, better aim. The founders had won their war in court twice, over 11 years. The fund won its war without a single hearing in 135 days. Same weapon, better aim. Then came the part the machine's employees paid for. February 13th, 2025. The first red-eye flights in the company's history took off. The new company flies through the night now, February 17th. 4 days later, about 1,750 corporate jobs cut. The first large-scale involuntary layoff in the company's history. Jordan's own words called it exactly that. At the airline whose founders' source doctrine began, "Your employees come first," March 11th, 2025, 5.5 months after the pledge. Bags Fly Free is ended, effective for bookings that May. The Associated Press, in its own dated words, noted that as recently as September, executives had described the free bags as, quote, the most important feature in setting Southwest apart. Jordan's stated rationale, his words again, attract new customer segments, and, quote, return to the levels of profitability that both we and our shareholders expect. May 28th, 2025, $35 for the first bag, $45 for the second. The company's own September math, the $1.8 billion of lost business it predicted, it charged anyway. Both promises, the seat and the bag, dead within a year of the letter.
"19 years I've been telling people the bags are free. Today I don't."
$35. I've flown this airline my whole adult life because it didn't do this.
Welcome aboard Flight 1971 Honolulu to Los Angeles. Any seat you can reach is yours. One last time, folks.
9:55 p.m., January 26th, 2026. Flight number 1971. Somebody at scheduling gave the last open seating flight in American aviation the company's founding year for a flight number, Honolulu to Los Angeles, overnight into the New World. The next morning, boarding groups 1 through 8 assigned rows. An extra legroom cabin with, the company's own page says, up to 5 additional inches. Even the fare names changed. The new tiers are basic and 3 flavors of choice. The word this brand was built on was love. The words it relaunched on are basic and choice. The network coverage wrote the obituary in 1 line, and we put their words on screen rather than their footage. The only detailed eyewitness account we found of day 1, a veteran travel writer, called the first morning's boarding, in his words, a mess, and reported the airline ran roughly an average day. Single source, so flagged. 53 years of passengers knew that scramble in their bodies. It is gone, and the airline that invented it is fine. Which brings us to the ending this film cannot moralize its way out of. Here's where both easy endings fall apart. If you came for the hedge fund destroyed Southwest, the numbers will not sign that story. Bag fees ran ahead of the company's plan. On the July 2025 earnings call, as the trade press reported it, it was the chief executive, not the finance chief, who said the revenue contribution from bags had exceeded our expectations so far, with no negative impact to the operation. The finance chief put the number at more than $350 million of operating profit for the year. Fiscal 2025, record revenue, about $28 billion, while the company bought back roughly 1/7 of its own shares. With the print came guidance, at least $4 of adjusted earnings per share this year. First quarter of 2026, a beat, with operating margin up about 8 points, and through all of it, through the broken pledge and the dead scramble, J.D. Power ranked Southwest first in economy customer satisfaction for the 5th straight year. The passengers, the promises were for keep choosing it. Elliott, for its part, is behaving like an investor who won. 2 of its directors stepped down this February, and filings covered it selling down millions of shares. But if you came for the myth's vindication, the 2 promises are still dead. 1,750 people are still laid off, and the company's own arithmetic still says the bag decision costs more than it earns. Record results. Broken promises, both true at once. The file and the myth have stopped agreeing, and only one of them is on the record. Record results. Broken promises, both true at once. The file and the myth have stopped agreeing, and only one of them is on the record. One more filed fact. This one has happened. 55 years ago, this airline was saved overnight by one filing. 2 years ago, it was remade in 4 months by another. On the 22nd of July, 2026, a third kind printed, the first full quarter of assigned seats in paid bags. Audited, public, checkable by anyone. The company's own headline on it was earnings power on full display. Operating revenue, $8.4 billion, up 16.4%. And by the company's own words, the highest in its history. Net income, $233 million. Margin up, with fuel costing $889 million, more than the year before. And, for the 5th straight year, first in economy customer satisfaction. The villain of the 4th act looks, on this page, entirely correct. Now read the rest of the page. The promise the company made in February, at least $4 of adjusted earnings a share this year, does not survive it. The release replaces that number with a range, starting at $3.25, and $285 million of revenue booked between 2022 and 2025 came back off the books, because more of the flight credits the company had assumed would never be redeemed are being redeemed. Record revenue, a cut promise. One document, one morning. The villain of the 4th act looks, on this page, entirely correct.
You ever seen it any other way?
This airline hasn't, in over 50 years. Ask me tomorrow.
Somewhere at headquarters, reportedly, the plaque is still on the wall. The napkin, the triangle, the 2 perfect lines nobody said. Roland King told the truth about it and died. The story outlived him. because it is, as he allowed, a hell of a good one. 2 people hired for the first day of flying, June 18, 1971, were still flying when the company turned 55 last month. They have outlived the napkin, the peanuts, the scramble for seats, and every airline that ever sued their employer. What built the thing they work for was never on the wall. It is in the Southwestern Reporter and the Federal Supplement, and a database in Washington, and last month it grew by 1 more page. The myth said love. The file said war. The file won twice. And when the file finally spoke about the new company, it did what it has always done here. It refused to flatter anybody.
What built the thing they work for was never on the wall. It is in the Southwestern Reporter and the Federal Supplement and a database in Washington, and last month it grew by 1 more page.